Hi everyone, as you can see we've reached the last bike test of 2025 and this time I have to introduce you to the PVI M29 bike, which is a mountain bike style ride. Very sporty, very strong and really enjoyable to use. But before I tell you exactly what it's like to use, of course the usual things come first. Unboxing, assembly, specifications, and at the end I'll share what it's actually like to ride this bike in real life. Let's start with the unboxing. Honestly, this year, the M29 was probably the easiest bike to assemble. You really don't have to do much with it, since you only need to install the front wheel and the light, screw the handlebar into place, put in the seat, and basically you're done. Obviously, you need to adjust the brakes and check if the gears are working properly. If not, you'll need to adjust those as well. In my case, the gears were perfect. I only had to make a small adjustment to the front brake. The rear one was perfect. So basically, assembling it took me no more than 15 minutes, and the bike was ready to use. Now let's move on to the specifications. This bicycle comes with 29-inch wheels. It's not a fat bike, but the tires aren't the thinnest either. The tread pattern is a mixed type, suitable for city, asphalt, and off-road use, which immediately tells you what the bike is intended for. So you can use it on hard surfaces as well, and you can even use it on dirt roads. It has a shock absorber and the suspension travel seems relatively long. I'll tell you more about that later. It comes with a relatively large battery, which is 17.5 amp hours and 48 volts. And in this category, that's considered quite big. According to the manufacturer, you can go up to 120 kilometers on a single charge. The gear system is a Shimano 7-speed and both the front and rear have 16 centimeters. That is 160 millimeters mechanical disc brakes. The brakes slow down the bike. The handlebar is relatively wide. And as you can see, the frame geometry isn't the usual Chinese electronic bike geometry, but rather this sporty, really good-looking design, and using it will feel just as sporty. That's about all you need to know about the specifications. So now I'll show you the bike's components one by one, and I'll also share my opinions and experiences with each of them. Okay, let's get started with the presentation. As I mentioned, there's a really nice little wind. We have a really nice handlebar. You can see it's quite wide. This is a good off-road handlebar, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The wheels, as I mentioned, are 29 inches, pretty big and relatively wide, which helps absorb road imperfections quite well. Back here is the Shimano Derailleur, a standard tourney derailleur, so it's the entry-level model, giving us 7 gears. No matter how basic it is, I actually had no problems with it during the test, and since we're talking about a rear hub motor here, you don't need to rely on it for power. So the torque doesn't have to be transferred here. The bike isn't mid-drive, it has a rear hub motor, so the fact that the derailleur is a bit weaker isn't really a big deal in this case. I haven't talked about the motor yet. Basically, it's a 250 watt motor, but the peak output can be up to 500 watts if you unlock the speed limiter on the computer. I'll show you how to do that later. I've already mentioned the battery capacity. As you can see, it's relatively large, like a big potato. It's mounted here on the frame. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing solution, as you can probably see, but it does have its advantages. It can be easily unlocked and removed with a key, so you can take it up to your apartment or charge it in the office. So this frame design, this battery setup does have its advantages. And now let's talk about the suspension, which I've already mentioned. What's interesting about it is that it can be locked, so you can use it on hard paved surfaces as well as off-road. On the other side, there's a knob, which in theory should let you adjust the preload, but honestly, I didn't notice any difference no matter how much I turned it, so I think it's more for show than for actual preload adjustment. And what can be said about this fork is that it seems like it has a relatively long travel, more than 10 centimeters, but in reality the travel is more like 5 to 6 centimeters, which I don't think is a lot for an off-road bike like this. But actually the manufacturer even puts a sticker on it here, on the fork, saying that you shouldn't try to do downhill or free ride with it. So in the end, this reveals that while this bike looks like a serious downhill or free ride bike, it actually isn't. It's a bike that's relatively easy to use for off-roading, for lighter trails, and for city use, and for that it's perfect. As for the electric system, it comes with a front light, which is relatively good in terms of brightness, but there's no rear light. At the back, you only get a reflector. So if you want to use this bike legally on public roads, it's worth getting at least a battery-powered or rechargeable rear light, because you'll need one. The good news is that you do get reflectors on the wheels, so at least you don't have to buy those. I mentioned that it has brakes, and I also said that there are 160 millimeter discs, both front and rear. The disc brake is also fully mechanical. I think in the long run it would be worth replacing it with a semi-hydraulic one. where the piston is hydraulic and is moved by the cable. That solution is much better than this one. A negative point is the kickstand, which is terribly bad because the angle is wrong, it leans way too far back, and if the ground slopes even a little forward, it constantly slips out of place and the bike tips over. So we definitely need to do something about this. Either the length needs to be adjusted or it should be set at a slightly different angle. This kickstand is basically unusable, so keep that in mind. It's definitely worth getting a new one. We don't have a rear fender and we don't have a front fender either. It's worth buying these as well because if you want to use the bike in rainy weather, you'll definitely need them. Overall, I really like this bike. As you can see, this is an orange fender. This is the version, but you can also get it in white for ladies, or if you don't like such flashy bikes as this one, you can buy it in gray as well. So in my opinion, the color selection is once again appropriate. The quality of the components, well, let's say it's more on the lower end, just like the gear shifter is also entry level. We get a rather flimsy plastic pedal like this, which is also worth replacing later on. In any case, these aren't major items. So if you buy a bike like this, you'll be able to get them relatively cheaply from China. These are the accessories, and now I'll show you the handlebar and the instruments in a bit more detail. We have two buttons here, a light and a horn, which is actually quite loud. In fact, it's probably too loud. I honestly don't think this horn is even allowed on a bike like this, but at least it does provide some kind of signaling function. The numbers on the display are relatively easy to see and read, although obviously they are not as visible in direct sunlight as you can see them right now. But it's still relatively usable. What I definitely have to show you in this regard is how you can unlock the speed limiter. You have to hold down these two buttons. That gets you into the menu and you need to go to 0.8. Here you can see that it's currently set to 32 kilometers per hour. This is the maximum you can set here. By the way, the factory setting is 25 kilometers per hour, and if you use that, then this bike will be legally usable. I didn't put it on, but you can install a throttle here at this point. The cable for it is up front. This is where you need to connect it. It's included in the package, so if you want to add a throttle, you just put it on. But I usually don't install it because then it won't be an electric pedal assist bicycle anymore, but a moped, which requires a license, insurance, and everything else that a moped needs. So the point is, if you put on the throttle, if you unlock the speed limiter, the governor, then this bicycle will no longer be an electric bicycle, but a moped. There aren't too many other controls. Obviously, there's a brake on one side, a brake on the other side. The Shimano shifter has its 7-speed switch here, and that's pretty much it, as you can see. So to sum up, I have to say, I really like this bike. It looks really good. I really like this orange color. Finally, something that's a bit more youthful, a bit fresher, compared to the usual gray, black, and white. So far, so good. But what is it actually like to ride? Well, obviously, this is the most important question. What it's like to use this bike, because this isn't your typical Chinese electric bicycle, you can see that it looks incredibly sporty. And the thing is, riding it feels just as sporty as it looks. The handlebar position leans you forward quite a bit, even for me at 184 centimeters tall. The seat is currently set a bit low, but if you raise it, the distance between the seat and the lowest point of the pedal will be just right, so you can pedal very comfortably and really put some power into it. The pedal assist is not torque sensor based, but rather uses a pedal sensor. This means it's an analog solution. When you start pedaling, the assist kicks in. You have 3 levels of pedal assist. In the first level, it assists up to 10 kilometers per hour, and in the highest level, depending on your settings, it can go up to 25 or even 32 kilometers per hour. It can even reach up to 32 kilometers per hour. The motor is 250 watts, but if you unlock it using the method I showed, you get a peak output of 500 watts. In practice, this 500 watt peak means you'll be able to climb even relatively steep hills with relative ease. I tried the second steepest hill in our area, and I was able to ride up it at 30 kilometers per hour, which is really not bad at all. The frame geometry, the seat position, the handlebar position, as I mentioned, all allow for a really nice sporty riding experience. So this isn't just good as a city bike, but you can also have a bit of fun on dirt roads with it, because you can really put your weight on the pedals, transfer torque to the bike with your legs very effectively, and you can accelerate, jump, and do all sorts of things with it really well. Of course, only within reason, because as I mentioned, it's written right on the front suspension that this isn't made for free ride, and it's not designed for downhill riding either. But on milder terrain, a bit of rough play is definitely possible. Obviously, everyone is interested in this too. What's the range? Well, I don't think anyone will be surprised when I say that the range is not 120 kilometers. I obviously haven't ridden it that far, but based on my experience, I can see how quickly the battery drains. I think that if you use it very carefully and only on the first level of assistance, which means a maximum of 10 kilometers per hour, then maybe you could get about 70 to 80 kilometers out of it. But at this speed setting, you probably won't use it very often. You'll more likely use the second or third level instead. There, I think that as long as you don't push it to the limit, if you don't want to ride at full throttle and maximum speed all the time, you can still get about 60 to 65 kilometers on a single charge, which is really not bad at all. Who would I recommend this bike to? I would recommend it to those who like a slightly sportier riding position and want to use it for commuting into the city and back home, to and from work, to school, anywhere their route takes them, because it has a relatively large range. The seating position is very comfortable, it's great to pedal, great to ride, it looks good, it's youthful, so it will definitely be a good choice for them. I can also recommend it to those who are leaning a bit more towards sports, not extreme sports, but more like off-road touring and similar activities. This will again be a very good choice for them because, as I mentioned regarding the frame design, the tires, the wheels, the 29-inch size, all of these are perfect for this purpose. They absorb road imperfections and you'll be able to ride it very comfortably even on light off-road terrain. I definitely do not recommend it for those looking for a true sports bike because it won't be suitable for that, not because of the components it's built from, nor because of the frame itself, since it's a steel frame, relatively heavy, almost 30 kilos. So I definitely wouldn't say we're talking about a lightweight sports bike here. All in all, what I can say is that I really liked it. I really love this Sporty line. I really like this bike. Maybe it's the one I like the most among those in a similar category that I've tried in recent years. Of course, tastes and preferences differ. Maybe you prefer a more conservative style, so maybe you won't like it. But if you do like this sportier line, then go ahead and buy it, because for the price they're asking for it, I think it's really not a bad deal at all. If you like the bicycle, you'll find the link in the video description on YouTube where you can purchase it. The coupon code will also be there, so you can buy it at the lowest possible price. You'll also find the link to the written review there. Read that too. There will be extra pictures and data you can check out. If you liked my video, then subscribe to the channel and watch one of the 2 videos appearing next to it. Like, hit the bell, blah, 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 you know, all the usual stuff. I won't be doing any more bicycle tests this year, but there will probably be one more scooter test, hopefully before the snow falls. Enjoy the autumn, the Indian summer, be good, and take care of yourselves. Bye!